Well, we are live this morning at 5 minutes past 8, right here on Salam Media, the news and views edition. Once again, Jummah Mubarak to one and all. We trust and hope that you're going to have a wonderful Jummah filled with the mercy and the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although it may be cold and wet, but I trust and hope that it is going to be a wonderful Friday. But right now, we're going across to Senior Litigation Attorney and Director of Nadeem Mahomed Inc. We're talking about the Emmarentia road rage shooting. Nadeem, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you. Once again, an absolute pleasure seeing you, and we thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, night. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah and Jummah Mubarak to everybody. It is indeed cold, it is indeed wet, but colder than what we are seeing in the news, I don't think we can get.
Well, certainly. Nadeem, the major talking point obviously has been the Emmarentia road rage shooting in the last week, and we've seen it right across both mainstream and social media. Many people were actually interested as to what is going to take place, and particularly looking at it from a legal perspective. And, there's been a lot of debate in terms of, what the final decision and the final ruling will be. And let's just try and understand from a legal perspective, firstly, how would the NPA actually look at a matter like this?
Jazakallah. Good night. First and foremost, and I just want to make this very clear so that everybody's aware. The NPA is elected not to prosecute the previous accused. He's now no longer an accused. So that effectively is the individual who shot and then fatally wounded the Faisal Rahman. So they've elected not to prosecute him at this stage. Now, it's very important that people understand that if at any stage new charges come to light, or the state is presented with evidence that maybe finds that it's now a prima facie case of murder or culpable homicide, depending on which avenue they take, he very well may end up in the dock again. So it's very important that when I give my opinion on these things, please understand that, number one, I'm not the attorney of record for the matter. I do happen to know the attorney of record in the matter, as well as the advocate that presented the case in court on Monday, I think it was. And I'm also very aware of how investigations of this nature take place. One of the huge positives for us in today's day and age, as litigation attorneys, is that social media is immediate, right? We understand, and I don't know if you've seen it. I believe that it is on social media. I've only seen one of the 3 videos that are circulating on social media. I'm not really avid social video watcher, so I didn't see them all, but I have had an opportunity of looking, at 2 of the 3 videos that have been circulating on social media, and these are eyewitness videos. So this is not hearsay. This is, I saw this and I recorded this, and I'm showing this to you as to exactly what transpired the moment the vehicle stopped, the moment the one vehicle stopped behind the other vehicle. So really, the state, and the police, and the investigative bodies have an easy task insofar as compiling the evidence, which is why they were able to very quickly take statements, compile necessary evidence, and approach the senior public prosecutor as well as the chief prosecutor at the Joburg Magistrates Court when this matter was decided upon. Now, it wasn't, the decision wasn't taken willy-nilly. It was a decision that was taken after a lot of investigation and a lot of inquiry and a lot of analysis as to all these factors that I've raised with you now, and a very lengthy application that was brought by my colleague who represented the accused as he was then. But as I say, and I just to go back to where I was, is anything that I may or may not say, depending on what I view or how I view it, based on the fact that I am an expert in the field, could effectively be taken as something that may be utilized either for or against. So I'm going to basically just be dealing with the law as it is, and not necessarily looking at each and every aspect of the case. As I said to you, I haven't looked at it on purpose. I haven't looked at each and every aspect of the case. You could, for example, say to me, in one situation, The vehicles were stuck together and they had to go into oncoming traffic in order to separate. And then when they did that, someone jumped out and the other person jumped out. So you could say that you may now be able to give you the necessary advice. And then on the second part of it is that the wife of the deceased, based on the evidence that I believe is in the docket, and is now, and also which is in the public eye. I mean, as I say to you, I've seen bits and pieces of it. She is in a very, very precarious and difficult and risky position, and I can almost guarantee that based on what I'm seeing, charges are more than likely forthcoming to be placed against her. So to answer your question, what is the MPA looking at? The MPA will be looking at all these factors. The MPA will be looking at the Firearms Control Act 60 of 2000. The MPA will be looking at the various constitutional court judgments, S versus Bianda, the Gillum case. These are matters, these are new cases which are now precedent cases, which Supreme Court and Concord matters, where the law in respect of firearm offences, Uncle Inayat, is so well traversed. And it's unfortunate that it's so well traversed. And the reason why is because there are so many firearm related offences in the country. And this opens a whole new conversation about whether or not you are actually competent, which is the first leg of obtaining a firearm license. And secondly, whether or not you obtain the firearm license lawfully. So a lot to discuss insofar as that is concerned, but that's what the MPA is looking at. The basis of the inquiry is going to be the evidence that's before them, the Firearm Controls Act 60 of 2000, and the relevant case law.
Yes, Nadeem, I think what is also important to understand is sometimes, and as you alluded to in terms of social media, we all have our own interpretation in terms of what we visually see, appearing on these video clips. But at the end of the day, it is about evidence based, and this is where the NPA is talking about a lack of evidence, and this is the reason why investigations, they're calling for further investigations to be completed by the police.
Absolutely, absolutely. But fundamentally, and if you take this 10 years back, Uncle Inayat, I mean, I've been practicing in these courts for a very long time, 22 years now. And I can remember, 10 or 12 years ago, we would go to court and I would explain to the senior public prosecutor the position. The senior public prosecutor would look at the witness statements in the file. The witness statements would have been taken by a police officer, more than likely a constable in the charge office. Time and again, it would have not been a very eloquent statement. Time and again, the witness may not have necessarily been very eloquent. Time and again, the witness who would have been given the statement may not have been doing it in his language of choice. There may not have been an interpreter available. But whatever evidence is now before the SPP is circumspect. It's something that you can't really take and be guaranteed or certain that this is the actual evidence. But today, as I said to you, with social media and with immediate videos, phones are out, dash cams are on, and everybody's filming as it is happening. It leaves very little room for interpretation, to be honest. And if you understand the law and you understand what the act says and you look at the case law and you apply it accordingly, 90% of the work for the police is done. Really, it is. I mean, yes, you can go with forensics, but you can all see in real time exactly how the incident occurs. It's real time. The wife comes out of the car, the husband comes out of the car, the children follow the wife out of the car. They all go up, towards the shooter, if you want to call him that. Although he wasn't the first shooter. The wife goes back to the vehicle. She obtains a firearm. She comes back. There's a tussle. There's two other passerbys who are trying to control the situation. Shot is fired. Everybody goes for cover. Then the gun is handed over to the husband. He then charges forward towards the shooter, and he's effectively shot dead. I mean, it's very little that is left for interpretation. Now, just in that scene alone, and that is really the second half of the incident, but just in that scene alone, is a contravention of Section 83 of the Firearm Controls Act. which is the provision relating to the transport and carrying of a firearm. These are contraventions of Section 84, which is the use of a firearm by a person that is not authorized to do so. Then there's Section 120, which is the offenses. Section 121, which is the penalties. Um, to be very honest with you, Uncle Inayat, if one has regard to the videos as I've put it, as I've showed it to you now, the wife is lucky to be alive.
Mm. Well, certainly is. But also, I think, Nadeem, what is important to understand is, and, I read somewhere where there is obviously no specific law that talks about road rage. So obviously, this obviously will be looked under criminal law, and that possibly could be looking at as assault, attempted murder. But also, what is important to understand is intent. Because this is where the investigation will actually reveal, in terms of intent, whether the shooter acted in self-defense, whether he acted reasonably. These are very, very important factors because, was his life in danger? These are matters, these are important issues that possibly would come out in the investigation.
I mentioned to you earlier, there's a case, S versus Diabana. It's a 2025 decision in our local division. The mere act of pointing a firearm is an offense, and it is permissible in a situation like that for any person against whom the firearm is pointed to act in self or private defense. There is a difference between private defense, which is obviously the protection of yourself or somebody else's personal body or property, and there is putative private defense. Putative means is that you weren't certain about the event, you weren't certain about what was going on. You assumed that there was something that was going to happen, which may not necessarily have happened. Then that goes slowly into the elements of culpable homicide. Did you exceed the bounds of private defense? Did you do more than was necessary to stall the incident which was imminent and threatening? The case law is clear. You do not have to, A, by any measure of technicality, determine whether or not the person was holding a real firearm or whether or not the firearm was capable of doing fatal or other damage to the person or thing. And two, the mere act of pointing the firearm is sufficient for purposes of intent. Self-defense is the lawful defense in that certain circumstances. The wife, if there was one firearm in the vehicle, unless there was two, but there was one firearm in the vehicle, the woman of the married couple of the deceased man went back to the vehicle. She obtained the firearm. Number one, if that vehicle belonged to Faisal Rahman Allah Murham, then it should never have been in the vehicle. It should have been on his person, or it should have been in a rucksack which was capable of holding such firearm. Number two, he did not in that video give her permission to go and obtain the firearm. Now, if he did give her permission to obtain the firearm, she has to have been a licensed firearm user. If she wasn't, she committed a third offense. If he did give her authority and she did have a right to use a firearm, then she could have gone to get the firearm. But in this instance, she could only have done that in the face of imminent or threatening, life-threatening conduct by the person who effectively did the final shooting. Now, as the video she sees, the shooter doesn't have a firearm in his hand. They're involved in a physical altercation. Blows are exchanged. Faisal Rahman falls to the ground. He gets up. He shouts something to her. She goes to the cop. She has committed a myriad of offenses, Uncle Inayat. The act is clear as to what the offenses are. Forget about the fact that there was road rage. That is assault. There may be provocation, but the act, the practice, and this is a standing order in the police. So you mentioned that it may not be an offense related to road rage, but the standing order in the police is as follows. It is not sufficient provocation for a person to retaliate in a road rage incident. So I'll give you a perfect example. Two people are walking past one another. One person stops and looks at the other person and insults him. The person has an opportunity to walk away, but the other person doesn't let him walk away. gets into his face, starts talking to him about his religion, maybe tells him something about his wife. The provocation increases, increases, increases until such time as he is so provoked, he reacts in a violent manner. That is the defense of provocation. I was provoked and I reacted. But road rage doesn't cover that provocation. The standing order of the police is clear. If you're involved in a road rage incident, drive away. You do not get out of your vehicle. The first person to get out of the vehicle is the aggressor. It doesn't matter if he was provoked by hand signals, by mouthing of some words, an open window shouting out at someone, even somebody threw the McDonald's milkshake at your window. It's still not sufficient provocation to react in a road rage incident. Those are all offences in accordance with the standing order of the police as it stands today.
Yes. Nadeem, we're going to go for a quick break. I'm going to put you on hold and we'll come back and let's continue the discussion.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When disaster strikes, families lose everything in an instant. Homes destroyed, communities displaced. Hope fades into uncertainty. Our Global Emergency Fund ensures we respond without delay, delivering food, water, shelter, and healthcare to families in need. To support our Global Emergency Fund, visit islamicrelief.org.za.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Operation Kurbani, Maulana Timor will once again be taking a trip abroad for Kurbani. Many people in the villages live well below the poverty line and only eat meat on the days of Eid al-Adha. Support this cause at 2,170 Rand for 7 shares or 310 Rand per share. Contact Maulana Timor, Maulana Sajjad, Maulana Hamad or Maulana Abbad on 011 852 6324 or 072 299 9268 or 082 368 6866 or 072 697 0131 or 073 576 9786. All slaughtering will be supervised by a team of foreign and local ulama. Visit www.operationkurbani.org.za.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Well, we continue with this morning's edition of News and Views. We continue with attorney Nadeem Mahomed as we take a look at the Emmarentia road rage shooting and also question marks that have been raised over the wife's role in the shooting of her husband, Faisal Rahman. Nadeem, just to continue, and I think, what is important to understand is clearly this incident has taken the entire country by storm. And, everybody's been talking about it as well, where a minor bumper bashing, obviously caused the situation where we had a fatality. And I just want to paraphrase what the Motor Industry Staff Association had said, that road rage is not only a criminal justice issue, but a societal challenge that requires collective responsibility. And how often have we not seen this, Nadeem, where we're talking about a collective societal responsibility when it comes to matters like this, whether it's road rage, whether it could be a simple incident. Somebody could be walking in a mall and somebody looks at his wife, and next moment he pulls out a gun as well. In terms of taking collective responsibility and being responsible citizens as well, because yeah, there is a great lesson for us.
Yeah, Uncle Inayat, I mean, I must be honest with you. As I said to you, I've been doing this job for 22 years. I only look young. I'm not actually that young. But reality is, when when I looked at the incident the first time, and I must be honest with you, there was so much trauma in that video for me. There were so many elements of trauma, so many elements of trauma. I'm talking. Oh, there were just so many things that I can't even really mention, because it's just such an absolutely incredibly unfortunate, unnecessary, and sad event. And really, since that incident, since I saw it driving on the road now, I mean, just this morning, for example, I'm driving very calmly and slowly. It's raining, the roads are wet. I've got children in the vehicle with me, transporting people to school, and an Uber or a Bolt driver, no lights, no indicator. He just simply decides he's coming into the road. I mean, I turned to look at him. He's got his phone on the shoulder like this. He's looking at something else in his hand. He's got his one hand on the driving, and I was absolutely ready to, just explode on this guy. And you stop for a second and you say to yourself, okay, but you just seen this traumatic event. Just be calm. I mean, how difficult is it really to do what you say? How difficult? I mean, let's be very honest. We are living in a time where we see violence and disaster every single second of every single day. We have 5 of the leading, highest ranking top cops and executives and chiefs in the country currently in the dock, whose bails have been denied, who are facing 10 to 15 years incarceration. We are talking about, and I'm sorry to bring sadness on this Jummah Friday, but we are talking about a imminent and total collapse of societal integrity, and it's an absolute degradation of life as we know it. It's just I mean, I just can't explain any more about what we're facing and what we're dealing with in today's day and age. And to be honest with you, I don't know how hard, how easy it is for us to be responsible. I just don't know. I mean, in my opinion, they need to overhaul the entire act insofar as firearms are concerned. Who's permitted to hold a firearm, and what type of competency you require, and whether that competency is actually competency. Honestly, we're living in a time where if you have a firearm, you will more than likely use it.
Well, certainly, but also Nadeem, interesting you speak about children, and I think what was more traumatic, and I've seen many comments on social media, is the trauma as far as the children in the car were concerned. The little boy obviously trying to resuscitate, Faisal as well, and we've seen that, and I think that has been traumatic, but also trauma. I mean, if you felt it, Nadeem, and I felt it as adults, we felt it. Can you imagine on social media, many young children, teenagers are exposed to social media. I'm sure they've seen the video clips that we've seen as well. So what I'm saying is this is right across the board and tells us that, we've got a problem. We've got a huge problem in this country. It's a systemic problem as well. You mentioned about the top cops as well. The police commissioner is on suspension. We've just heard that yesterday as well. The minister of police is under suspension as well. Where are we actually heading to as far as enforcement is concerned? Because this tells me that we've got a huge problem as far as enforcement.
Uncle Knight, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-aliyyil azim. I mean, really, if the absolute top of the top is not prepared to enforce and at least comply with the laws, what are the normal constables and sergeants and warrant officers within our branches going to do? What are they going to do? You're going to go there with 500 rand or 1,000 rand. You're going to say, you know what, let me see this docket. The docket's going to get given to you. You're going to take the docket, you're going to burn it, you're going to cut it up, you're going to throw it away. When the matter comes before court, the prosecutor will say, we don't have a docket. Yes, it's electronically stored, but you know what? It's going to take some time to get there. So the matter is struck from the roll. A murderer, a rapist, a burglar, a robber, a hijacker, he's going to go free. You think you're going to see him again? Never. But I'm going to add to this one thing that I want to mention, and I'm sorry to bring this to you now, and I know that this isn't what you called me here for. And I mentioned to you lots of trauma that I experienced in that video. But there's one thing I want to mention, and I really was trying to stop myself. We have a Muslim man lying on the floor. He's still breathing. You have a Muslim woman sitting on the floor. Her hand is effectively in half. You have two children standing by their father and mother crying and screaming. You have another Muslim man, the shooter. You have his wife. You have several other Muslims standing around. Not one person opted to go to Faisal Rahman Allah Muhammad and read his Shahada with him. He was taking his last breaths. You can see on the video, he was taking his last breaths. Not one person went to him and read his Shahada with him.
No, I think that statement alone really, speaks volumes, really. And sometimes we don't have answers for this as to why it wasn't done, really. But it is certainly an indictment on us. And as you mentioned, these are all Muslims that were involved. And again, as a society, we need to take responsibility and also a lesson, I think huge lessons. And this is the reason why I'm saying that, there are lessons for us. And we know that there are many, young people that obviously are armed these days as well. We see it on a day-to-day basis. Every second youngster, I think when he reaches a certain age, the first thing he wants to go for is either his driver's license or his firearm license. And again, these are lessons. And these are things that we as a society, as a Muslim Ummah, need to be talking about. Responsible people within our society, our ulama bodies, people, leadership within the community. And I think these are issues that we need to definitely talk about, need to address, and very, very seriously, and with a sense of urgency.
Uncle Knight, are you still there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost you for a second. G. Yeah, Uncle Knight, I would really love to have this conversation again with you and really deliberate on this. There's so much to unpack in that regard. But I just you're talking about the firearm licenses and teenagers who are attaining the age of majority, getting their driver's license and then their firearm license. Do you know, if you go for the full course, for the competency course, it's actually a 4-day course. I don't know if you're aware of this. So when I went for my firearm license, it's section 13. Section 13 is self-defense. That's all it is. It's self-defense. You have one firearm. That firearm license is valid for 5 years. You have to renew it. You renew your competency, you renew your license. Do you know that in terms of the competency regulations, you are required to attend at a shooting range a minimum of, I can't remember the number of hours, but it works out to 3 times a month. That's it, a minimum of 3 times a month. Now, can I tell you something? I go to the shooting range at least once a week. I don't carry my firearm because my license was denied. I don't have a firearm. I have a firearm, but I don't carry it because my license was denied. So it's in safe storage at the gun shop. My firearm was denied. I'm now 46 years old. My firearm was denied when I was 45. And the reason was I didn't provide sufficient motivations for statistics in South Africa to warrant the need for a firearm for self-defense. There are 18 and 19-year-old children who are carrying firearms. Not 1, not 2, but 3. And you know why? Because then they apply for sports firearms, sports licenses. Sports license, you can have as many firearms as you want, as long as you can justify why you need it. You know what's even more alarming? Is that in terms of a sports license, you can carry your rifle in your backpack, in the boot, you can carry your shotgun in the car, and when a police officer stops you, you simply say, I'm going to the shooting range. Now,
Mm.
thank Allah, we don't have the firearm laws that they have in America. Otherwise, we would be in a serious problem, even more serious than we already are in. But really, people, be responsible. Be responsible with your children. You know, if your child, and I say your child because 18, 19 is a child. If your child is going to carry a firearm because he's traveling from Lenasia or Azadville or from Krugersdorp or from the West Strand or from the East Strand and he's coming to Wits or to Rao or to UJ, whatever the university is called now, and he's traveling a long distance and you're afraid that he travels at night and he needs to have, make sure as part of his weekly and monthly routine he goes to the shooting range at least once a week. He is so proficient, that's the word, hey, proficient with a firearm that he knows if I take it out, I must be prepared to use it. If I'm prepared to use it, it must be for the intent of committing lethal or using lethal force. That's what the competency course tells you. Have gun, will use it. That's the phrase. Have gun, will use it. If you take it out, make sure you're prepared to use it. That's it. That's the phrase. So very little training, very little experience, very little proficiency, degradation of our society, Uncle Inayak, and I'm petrified as to what's going to happen with our children. My children are coming into their teenagehood now, and my youngest children are coming into their tweens. I'm petrified. It's a scary thought for me.
Well, it's a scary thought for us as well, especially for us being grandparents as well, and what future generations obviously are going to look like. But Nadeem, I think we're going to be having this discussion a lot more, going into the future. At some point in time, hopefully, we would have a full panel discussion with some of the other key, leadership within our communities as well to actually address this issue. So we certainly will unpack that sometime in the future. But for now, we thank you. We say Jazakallah. Have yourself a wonderful Jummah as well, inshallah. And all the best to you, my brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khair.
Senior litigation attorney and director of Nadeem Mahomed Inc., attorney Nadeem Mahomed, just unpacking some of the issues with regard to the Emmarentia road rage shooting, but also at the same time, some of the lessons that we as a society need to take from an incident that seems so, insignificant, a bumper bashing. And we saw what the furor that obviously this has created, and it's become a major talking point. And also as a Muslim Ummah in terms of indictment on the Muslim Ummah, because let us remember that all the parties that were involved were Muslim. And I think what Nadeem raised was a very, very important, a critical issue. The bystanders who were sitting and watching a man taking his last breath on the earth, and there was no one there to read his shahada. And that alone speaks volumes. With that, we're going to go for a break. We come back, we're going to play out a recorded interview, the Zionist expanding role and its influence in the White House, the American foreign policy. We had quite a robust discussion with the likes of Miko Appella, the US-based author, and also a human rights activist. We had Professor Patrick Bond and also Brooke Spector, who was a former US diplomat. So we will play that out for you immediately after this.